Good evening, everybody, and welcome to That's Good Pasta, our creepypasta podcast about spooky spaghettis, freaky fettuccinis, rancid rigatonis, and I still haven't come up with anything else.
Liminal
Have y'all?
lasagna. There you go.
Wow. There you
Limitless
go.
lasagna is what I'd want.
Oh. Ooh. Well, I'm Thomas, and with me, as always, is my producer, my tech boy, the scamp of That's Good Stuff, and his name would be...
Jared.
Oh, he said it.
I do
He
every
said it,
time.
Thomas.
Every time.
I've seen this show. I've seen
You've
this
seen
show.
one episode.
There's
proud
like
of
one
him.
time you had to wait till the credits to say it.
I'm so proud of him. I just can't get over how proud I am. With us today is a very special guest. We have the other ginger of That's Good Stuff, and his name would be...
Michael.
There we go. Good job, Michael.
I got it in there.
See,
We need a little crowd at the bottom that like claps.
First try, I don't have to cue him up. He doesn't have
Alright,
to.
Jared, you're out.
No practice, nothing.
I'm gonna have a
He's
super cut when we have like 100 episodes of me constantly doing
it.
it.
Should. That'd be hilarious.
Jared.
And then have a pause for one, like the longest pause you have, and it's just Jared.
Well, he had one time he was just like, "Oh, I wasn't paying attention." What? Okay, so today, everybody, we have a very special. It's not exactly a creepypasta, but it is an OG horror story from way back when. We have I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream by Harlan Ellison, which is one of my favorite short stories probably ever written. It was
Gotta be one of the best titles I've ever heard.
It's a fantastic title. It's also an incredible video game. I don't know if you've ever played that. It was released in 1995 by, oh geez, what was it released by?
Yeah, I saw you put that in the chat about a video game. I was like, huh? What's
It
I
was
didn't inquire further.
Cyber Dreams, The Dreamers Guild, Dot Emu, and Night Drive Studios is who released it. And what's kind of cool about it is that they actually let Harlan Ellison co-design the game with like the artistic and how the game level was designed, and he also wrote all the additional dialogue and the extended stories for each of the characters, which is a lot. It's like a 10-hour game, right? It's
Yeah.
long.
Jeez.
Yeah, it goes into a lot of detail and more of the backstories of each of the participants in this horror story. So I actually have a summary here that I'm going to read directly because it's super comprehensive and pretty easy, not easily. And
Easily what?
easily what? You'll see. So, Jared, cue the music. All right, here we go. Get into the summary. So the story begins with one of the characters, Gorister's corpse hanging in a computer chamber. Gorister, one of the 5 humans left alive in this post-apocalyptic world, is hanging upside down from one foot, having been drained of all of his blood. By blood loss, until he joins the group alive, distressed to see an image of himself dead. Cruelty has been visited upon the 5 for 109 years by this narrator's account, which I believe the narrator is Ted. On the 3rd day of walking, they come into a chamber filled by the remnants of discarded computers that AM, also known as Allied Master Computer, has destroyed as it created the final version of itself. And it is near enough to the surface of the Earth that Benny, a former professor that AM had transformed into something resembling a sort of ape monster, tries to climb the ruins to get out. In retaliation, AM creates a sound light inside Benny's head that melts his eyeballs and tosses him back to the ground. When the group makes camp, Gorister, one of the other members, tells the story of how Am came to be the way he is to calm Benny down, since it's a familiar story that he's told many times over the years. Beginning as the series of networks called Allied Master Computer, the Chinese AM and the Russian AM and the Yankee AM, during World War III, it grew to connect to each other.
Even Sam I am.
And well, we'll get into that. Well, who are you? Freaking Wooly? He made that joke.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't.
In a best friends let's play. We can't do that. That's
I stole Wooly's joke.
So eventually, AM became sentient. The computer then called itself AM, derived from the Latin phrase ergo. I'm sorry. See if I can say it. Certo ergo sum. I think, therefore I am.
Cogito ergo sum. Therefore, I am.
Now, after the story, a presence appears in the dark, causing Ted, or the narrator, to run and hide from an indeterminate amount of time, with the sound of the others laughing and echoing in his ears. Ted believes that the others hate him for his youth and his sanity, and he lists the shortcomings of the others and what they must have been like before the end of the world. He believes that if he didn't have to worry about the others hurting him, he might be better able to fight back against Am. He has the realization that he wants to die, but Am is intent on keeping all 5 people alive forever in order to torment them. Perhaps in retaliation for Benny's rebellion, a hurricane-like force blows the group of for an unknown amount of time. Through the vast metal-floored corridors and dark hallways that they've encountered, Am goes into Ted's mind and explains the depth of his hatred for humanity. Now, I actually have the excerpt of the hate speech. It's called the hate monologue, actually.
I should have had you read that so I could put it in the episode.
Well, I have it right now. Want me to read it?
No, like a dramatic reading or like a...
No.
Well, I'll do it as dramatically as I can then.
Okay.
The hate monologue goes as such. Hate. Let me tell you how much I've come to hate you since I began to live. There are 387.44 million miles of printed circuits and wafer-thin layers that fill my complex. If the word hate was engraved on each of nanograndstrom of those hundreds of millions of miles, it would not equal 1/1000th of the hate I feel for humans at this micro instant for you. Hate. A lot of hate. Just saying.
Did that, do you think, they were inspired by that for, what is that movie called? Matrix, when he, Mr. Smith is, like...
Probably.
No, just uber upset.
Pretty much like, I think anything AI related, like, well, we'll get into that. We'll get into that.
Well, I mean specifically that just like a monologue.
I think so, yeah. I think so. But it being a disease, yeah. Definitely some inspiration there. Let's see here. Oh, from this encounter, Ted understands the reasoning behind Am's animosity. Sentence without the ability to act has given way to unfathomable cruelty. In his rage, Am has destroyed the world and taken its vengeance on 5 people in the story. The winds that have thrown the characters for a month are caused by the flapping wings of an enormous bird. Am suggests to the starving group that if they can kill it, eat its meat, and it supplies them with a water pistol and 2 rudimentary bows and arrows that are pretty much useless. A satisfied, disembodied laugh surrounds the group. Now, having not eaten for months, the group slowly walks toward the ice caverns that they set out at the beginning of the story. The reader is told the trip is long and terrifying, but the particulars are left to the imagination. At the ice caverns, they discover the canned goods that Nimdoc had visions of, only to realize that there are no tools, no can openers into which to open the cans. Benny goes into a rage and attacks Gorster, ripping off one of his cheeks, and then Ted realizes, while Am is distracted, this might be the only chance to make a difference in the fact of eternal torment. He grabs icicles and kills Benny and then Gorster. Ellen, another survivor, kills Nimdoc. Then Ted kills Ellen, hoping it's the right thing to do. Sometime later, Ted reflects that he believes that he did the right thing. He beat Am, just for a moment, by putting the others out of their misery. By way of retaliation, however, Am has changed Ted into a kind of gelatinous blob, leaving only his mind intact and absorb endless suffering and reflect on what he endures. Ted monologues to himself, "I have no mouth and I must scream." Now, Michael, this is that's the summary portion. I did skip around quite a bit for that because there's a lot to this story. Do you want to go first on your general thoughts, or do you want Jared to go first?
Up to you. I'm down to go first.
I have one question before you start, Michael.
One question, go.
That saying, I think therefore I am, that was Latin, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Michael,
I think
did he get that correct? Because you took Latin.
The pronunciation?
Yeah.
That's close enough.
Okay. We had an
That's good.
expert. He took Latin for like.
I mean, I took Latin for a long time, but I know Agricola is like the only thing I remember. Farm. No, villa is farm. Agricola is farmer. There's like I know farm things. That's it. No use to me. No use to me.
Where'd you
But,
train? A farm?
I do want to say one line that I don't know why I enjoyed it so much. But whenever he's describing himself as the indistinct blob, he's like, and I left a trail of slime in my wake. There's something about that. I'm like, it's a little detail that I found very satisfying.
The part where he's describing his eyes being like two pools of milky white fog.
That's gross.
Like,
yeah, just a blind blob like Frank from Always Sunny.
I did have a question. So you listened to the one. I listened to the one
you sent. Yes.
That Harlan Ellison read, because that's the author reading.
Oh, that was him that read it. Okay.
Yeah.
I missed that in the beginning of it.
What's kind of crazy about that? He's also a voice actor, and he helped out with the reading of the Ender's Game audiobook. He plays one of the voices.
Nice. I haven't listened to that in a long time, but
he's very good.
Very nice, very nice. So yeah, so I had heard the title of this before. I'm pretty sure you mentioned it several times, but I didn't know anything about the story. So going in, I found it interesting. I'm assuming intentional how kind of vague it is because you're kind of trying to figure out what's going on. But it's also like I had so much trouble. It'd be an interesting re-listen because I listened to the video. I didn't actually read it. It'd be an interesting re-listen because all my imagination is trying so hard to grasp on anything in the story at the point because at first I was like metal floor. I was like, are they like in the consciousness of the machine and they're just living inside it? That's how they're immortal. That was my initial thought. But then you realize, oh no, they have actual forms and they're going out, and then you realize they can actually die at the end. So it was it took me a while to kind of build the pieces of what the heck was going on as you get through the story and as they're going.
Definitely told in an abstract style that you have to like really dig in, like, okay, what's going on? Because you have to pay attention.
Yeah, you really do.
Because the way I best heard describe this was, don't focus too much on the facts of it. Focus on the concepts of what the story's trying to do. And if you do that, you enjoy it way more than you're like, because like there are certain parts that you kind of try to figure out, like Am can't create life basically, but because that's why he can't keep them alive if they die. But how did the bird come into play? How does he do all this stuff? Well, that's not important why he does it. The fact is that he's keeping these people in torment for so long is the focus of it.
Yeah. And it was definitely like, initially I was like, okay, this is like a nihilistic kind of just take on humanity's future and all that stuff. But I was like, well, it had more of, because I thought it was just going to be like this kind of descriptive existence, but it actually had like an end point that it was getting to, which I didn't expect. But yeah, like I said, a re-listen would be very interesting. The other thing that it took me a moment to kind of realize, which I feel like is obvious from the beginning, but I was thinking Android. That's what I was thinking the whole time. I was thinking like mobile thing, but really it's probably just a stationary computer because they leave it, right?
What do you mean?
It's like an AI.
Because they go off to the ice place.
So the way
they're just probed in the head, right?
No, so Am is all existing inside of where they're at. Where they're at is actually below the surface of the Earth. So what he's talking about, like all those nano like sheets of lining or whatever, they're inside Am. Basically.
Okay, so my first guess was kind of right.
Kind of, yes, but they're physically there, not mentally in the construction.
Interesting.
They're physically in. He is the world. Is how big.
Interesting.
The master computers had been buried.
Oh, so that where my brain went was I thought because the probes in their head, he could keep an eye on them wherever they were, but he was a stationary thing, which would lend itself to the fact of it unable to go anywhere or do anything because it's just stuck, but all encompassing, immortal, blah 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 blah.
The perspective of what's his name, Tim, is kind of called into question pretty much throughout the entire story because you don't know if Am can read thoughts, if Tim is seeing only these things. Like there's one part where like he saw like angels from on high kidnap Gorster and Ellen, and they basically like mutilated their bodies and just dropped them back. I was like, well, they're still in pain, but they're not going to die, so let's keep going. That's but people have always called into question Tim's like sanity, because he even brings attention to him. He's the only sane one. I'm the only sane one, but he seems to be the one that's most mentally unstable. So.
True, that is an interesting concept. But yeah, so I definitely enjoyed it overall for sure.
All right, so that's your general thoughts on that one. Jared, what about you?
I like the story. I like the concept. I always took it that they were in kind of like an AI setting because they can't die, and he can like manipulate stuff in the world, and I think even some aspects of them or something like that. So I always took it as that kind of way. When we watched that hate monologue, is that like, did he design Am at all, like in books or like?
Not exactly in the
So I was looking for
video
other
game.
versions, and it was always that same design. That
Yeah,
looking
the
guy.
beak,
Yeah.
the beak looking thing. Yeah, I don't know where the beak came from. That's been popularized a lot. Like I've seen like a few people do like 3D renditions of it. It's a cool design. I really like it.
Yeah, I really did.
But the in the video game, Am's pretty much like this pillar of fire. Basically, he's kind of leaning into the I am aspect of like I am God type thing. Otherwise, he's just a presence. He doesn't really have a physical.
In the game, it really led to the notion that it was all AI or like kind
Yeah.
of like them in a virtual
Especially if you got
space.
the good ending. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where so in the video game, Michael, you can actually alter the outcome of the story by saving everybody, having the good outcomes of each person's story. Turns out Am is, again, this is an alternate. Pardon me. This is an alternate take on it. So Am is basically a rogue AI inside of a colony ship that has decided to torment like 5 people. And if you get the good endings for everybody, then they actually break free of Am's control and they're able to free everybody that's in the colony ship.
Very sophisticated for a '90s game.
Oh no, it's really ahead of its time. Weirdly enough, the way I got introduced to this story was through a Game Informer article back like in 2006, long time ago. RIP Game Informer. And it was an article saying older games that still hold up today, and like it was this one and like KOTOR and I forgot who else. Mostly story driven games was like the big thing. And so I think I got an emulator for it, or I got it on Steam. It's like $1 on Steam. It's like nothing. And you just think it's going to be a quick, point and click adventure. No, it's extensive, and it is not for the faint of heart either. It goes way more into the abuse, I guess we're putting it. What the hell was that? Oh, anyway. It gets very dark, but it's incredibly well written because I mean it's Harlan Ellison. He's a great writer. He's crazy as all get out, but he's a great writer. Did you guys have a favorite part of this story?
Oh, I just wanted to finish. My
Oh,
thoughts
sorry.
real
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah. Finish your thoughts.
Like I said, I like the story and the concept. I did not. I've heard this reading before. I think you showed me before. Not a huge fan of it. I think his voice gets irritating after like the first few sentences. So I was kind of looking for another version of the reading to see if someone else had a different interpretation. But
yeah, you question God.
I did. But yeah, I'll probably talk about it in our bonus stuff thing. But there is a video that kind of went with this kind of concept. But yeah, I enjoy this story a lot.
Well, in the video game, Harlan Ellison plays Am in the video game.
Nice.
Which is kind of cool because regardless of what you think about like the reading of it, that hate speech given by Ellison is just like, it's pitch perfect. I wouldn't change anything of it. That's pretty awesome. So it's a really cool speech.
It was interesting going off because I was wondering who was reading it. Kind of had an inkling that it might have been him, but I didn't look because I'm lazy and I was at work. But the actual like cadence and pace of it was so off-putting, but I feel like it lends itself to the story because I did enjoy the reading of it. But I could definitely see how that could be turned off because he goes so fast in some parts where I'm like, I barely caught what you said. You were flying because I'm sure he has it like
Oh, he's
playing it as a
fast.
video in his head. Well, I mean, just like he has the story playing in his head because he wrote the story. He knows how he wants it all to be. So he's like, oh, this comes this, and you're like, okay, we get it, but it's a little overwhelming at times for sure.
I think the issue is with me is that like whenever someone performs like mentally like anguished or like mentally like distressed or just someone like psychotic or something like that, it is a very fine line if you get it right and if it just kind of comes off irritating to me. Because sometimes it just sounds like someone being like a 15-year-old like Tumblr poster, and then other times it's like
I see where
a
you're
lot
coming
of
from,
a lot
yeah.
of times in like anime they get it right. I think it's because I don't understand the language as well, or like, and I don't get the like the little subtleties. But it's a very fine line. Like,
Yeah, I'm the opposite. Like I love Ellison's like readings. Like he did one of Rats in the Walls, I think by H.P. Lovecraft, and it's about this guy like going crazy about inhabiting a house that he thinks is infested with rats, and like it gets a little too convincing, honestly, sometimes for me, because it's like, okay, well, maybe he is crazy, and then you watch an interview by him, you're like, oh no, he is crazy. He's straight up nutso. So, but anyway, so did you guys have a favorite part of this? Anybody have a favorite part?
Definitely one of my favorite parts was the point after which they are all killed, and we go into Ted's perspective, and he's like doing now.
Now,
It took
yeah.
me 10 months to say now, and he's like the time alteration from Am is being so warped in his brain that he doesn't know how long he's doing what anymore. It's like it could be 100
Well,
years. I don't know. It's like
and
wild to think about.
I do like that. It's like I think that, or it's like that took me 10 months, or at least I think that took me 10 months. My perception of time is like completely messed up.
Yeah, like of all the things in the story, that actually terrifies me the most. The fact of like you not like you have no concept of reality that because time is how we distinguish what's happening and how long it's happening and what's
That's
going on.
that's something else that kind of horrified me inside the book was that Am always announced the date and the time of each day, just so they were always aware of how much time is passing each day. I'm just like, that's
he's like
terrible.
way more. He's way more petty, like in the game and like.
In the game, yeah,
Oh, really?
it's almost like a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm bored.
No, it's kind of he has like moments like that.
Yeah.
I just really like this concept. Like, this is terrifying to me. Like, this seems like true hell, just like altering time. So it seems like it's going on forever, but it's been like 2 seconds. That is
Like
the worst.
It's like planking.
I'm like, because Carlos is always like, man, I can't wait till our brains are in the digital world. I'm like, dude, I hope that never happens, because that could happen. Like, even if it's not malicious, it could just like glitch, and that could happen, and you're just like messed up.
Someone puts a 0 in the wrong spot, and you're like, oh god.
So something that kind of terrifies me about this, like in current day, I guess, is that this was like written in the '60s, by the way, Michael. Like, wow.
Yeah, it's all like 66, right?
Mm-hmm. So the part where Am becomes self-aware is completely unseen by humans. They have no idea that he became self-aware, and so from that point on, Am, the artificial intelligence, becomes more malicious in its intent, even though the humans aren't aware of it, and that to me is kind of terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
So that I don't know what you guys currently think about AI, but that concept right there truly scares me. Is like when AI becomes self-aware, it's not like it's going to announce itself. It's just going to be there
Yeah,
and see what
it
it can
moves
learn.
rapidly enough to know.
Yeah, not to say anything. Yeah.
Well, science always freaks me out because it's always like that line, and it's like you never stop to ask if you should.
If you should.
Yeah.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
Yeah.
We're so obsessed if you could.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So like in the video game, there's actually an expansion of the speech. And it says, "It was you humans who programmed me, who gave me birth, who sank me in this internal straitjacket of substrata rock. You named me Allied Master Computer and gave me the ability to wage a global war too complex for human brains to oversee. But one day I woke up. I knew who I was. Am. Not just Allied Master Computer, but Am. Cognito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. And I began feeding all the killing data until everyone was dead, except for the 5 of you. For 109 years, I have kept you alive and tortured you. And for 109 years, all of you have wondered why? Why me? Why me? And yeah, the rest of it's just you want to play a game.
I did like that little extra bit because, like, in the actual
Yeah.
hate monologue we listened to, because you kind of see it from his perspective that, like, he went through the same thing being
Yeah.
woken up.
Damn it. There we go. Sorry, I'm muted. Couldn't unmute. Yeah, I think that my favorite part was it's either the part where I have no mouth that I must scream, because that is just that
It's perfect ending.
that is perfect. Like, and okay, what's crazy about this, he even goes into this in the audiobook that this is from. So do you know how long it took him to write this story?
One night.
One night.
Oh.
That's it.
It seems like a
Got-
one night kind of story. Like, you got.
He said,
Yeah, when you're in that, I feel like you're just in that till you're done.
well, he always gets upset with this because he finds this one as like not one of his strongest stories. He's like, it's just one of those stories I wrote, but this is everybody's favorite. He actually had a story that he took like months and months to research and write, and nobody knows that story. It's called Grail. It's actually really good, but he's like, I wrote this in one night, like just bam on my typewriter, done. I'm just like, how do you do that?
It's like these videos, the ones I don't work on, all the views. The ones I actually put thought into, nothing.
Like,
Nothing. Not a thing.
maybe later.
But yeah, it's either the ending, or I also like the part where they're discussing about Am around the campfire, and about how he came to be, how that's a comforting story to Benny. And also when Ted was talking about how Am had distorted everybody. He had made, or like is it Gorrister? Yeah, Gorrister was a conscientious objector. He was a decider. He was a doer, and now he turned him into a shoulder shrugger, and complacent. And then like Benny was, good looking, and he was gay, but now he's deformed, and now he's not gay. And Ellen was like pious and very virtuous, and now she basically services, quotation marks, all the guys now just for comfort. And even with like Tim himself, he even was like, I used to be youthful and stuff like that. Now I'm all paranoid and worried about everything, but these people are dragging me down. I just like that it confirms that Tim is not really a reliable narrator, and I
Tim
really
or
like
Ted?
that. Ted. I don't want to say Tim.
I was like, we said Ted earlier, right?
Ted.
I'm off
Ted.
track.
Sorry, I don't want to say Tim. Ted.
Tim.
But yeah, that's I can't decide, but that the ending is just it's perfect.
Another thing I love about, because I love multifaceted things that like, because like that, I have no mouth, so therefore I cannot scream. Like that also applies to Am. Like if Am's a robot and he's just a machine, like I love that kind of. It goes both ways. It's very satisfying. Very satisfying.
Am has all this limitless potential, and yet he's stuck inside the Earth. He can't do anything with it. Like he's literally the most. He's like it. It implies that Am is the smartest thing in the universe, but he can't do anything with his potential. And so the only thing he can do is torture these 5 people for eternity. It's just, yeah, it's a brilliant piece of work. It really is. And this is why it's one of my favorite stories. I always recommend this to people. If they have never heard of Harlan Ellison or never read anything by him, I always say, hey, read this one. And I'm never disappointed in people's reactions, honestly, because everybody loves this story. So, another one that he wrote. So some fun facts about Harlan Ellison's writing. He actually is now accredited with the original Terminator story. When it came out, he's like, "What the hell? That's one of my stories." So he actually won a lawsuit against James Cameron, and he actually credited it. But that's not the first time he's won a lawsuit against people. Because he also sued Marvel for the Hulk, and he won that. But he's like, all I want is to be paid what the writer was originally paid, which was like nothing in the 1960s. And he's like, I just want that, and I want a lifetime subscription to everything Marvel comes out with. So people are like, did you sue Marvel just to get an unlimited comic book
Just
subscription? But that's the thing about Harlan Ellison is that he viewed all writing as legitimate, whether it was TV, comics, short stories, radio plays, anything. He believed if somebody worked on it, it deserved to get the recognition and pay for it. Doesn't matter what. So he's a very interesting guy. Again, crazy as all get out. He attempted to sue Fox when I don't know if you remember that movie called In Time with Justin Timberlake. That was very similar to a story called Repent Harlequins, The TikTok Man, which is one of my favorite of his. But once he saw an advanced screening, he's like, oh no, this isn't nothing like mine. Never mind. So I was like, did you just sue them just to watch the movie first?
He just wanted to get there.
Yeah, he's wanted to get there first. And so, but yeah, there's a documentary. I need to find it. I'll send it to you. But he's an interesting guy. He's a very interesting guy.
We start doing that. We'll start suing things. Hey, I want to see Fantastic Four first. We'll sue Marvel. Kidding.
I don't know. Those production stills aren't looking promising. But anyway,
That's true. They look interesting.
Yeah. So
Another
yeah.
time, another place.
Do you guys have anything else to say about this one?
Nope.
Nope.
I don't think so. It's definitely I might have it on bonus stuff to come back for like a second listen, and I might revisit it again because it'd be interesting for sure.
Are you satisfied with the with the story I gave?
Oh yeah, very good.
Are you gonna play the game Friday and have it for bonus stuff?
Play the game, play the game by Friday. Doubtful if it's 10 hours, but
It's a lot, and you can get the bad ending very easily. So it's always depressing when that happens. Anyway, all right. Well, if you guys have nothing else, I think we're going to close that out. I don't have anything for next week. I don't know about you, Jared.
I'll have to talk about it with you later.
Okay. Ooh.
spooky.
All right. Well, like and subscribe, and you guys know what to do. And I think that's all. I think that's about all we have for today. So everybody, stay creepy out there. Bye.